Good evening, everyone. My name's Tim Gibson. I'm the Secretary of the Geelong Interfaith Network. And this is the fifth dialogue that we've had this year on Zoom about different topics related to the faith communities around us. And before we go any further, I'm going to ask Michael Lay, one of our members, to make an acknowledgement of the Indigenous people of this area. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Tim. It's fitting that we should do this tonight because right at this very moment, the annual general meeting of the Geelong One Fire Reconciliation Group is commencing, and I'm skipping that in order to be here. So on behalf of all of us, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet, even if it be by Zoom. For most of us, if not all, that will be the lands of the Wadawurrung people. And on your behalf and on my own, I pay tribute to their elders past, present and emerging. Without the work that they did in preserving this land for so many centuries, we would not have a land to meet on. So it is good that we, members of the variety of faiths that now congregate here, should recognise that contribution and do our best to preserve it.
Thank you, Michael. There's another announcement before we go any further, and that is that our Deputy Chairperson, Vanessa Woolley, would have liked to have been with us tonight, but unfortunately her father died yesterday. And we offer our deepest condolences to Vanessa and her family, and we remember them tonight. I'm sure she would have wanted to be with us, and she'll be able to see the recording of this at a later date. So we'll begin our dialogue tonight with each speaker. Could we have, Rankle, could we have the list of speakers on the screen again, just to remind everybody who's there? And each speaker will have 7 minutes. I'll have a little timer which will beep, and I'll wave my arms when you're going over time. So we ask you to try and stick to the time so that we can fit everybody in. And then after we've had each of our 7 speakers, we will have a time for interaction and discussion as much as we can before finishing at 9 o'clock. So our first speaker tonight is Peter Wicks from the Baha community. So it's over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for your help getting me here tonight. A few problems. The topic, how my faith relates to other faiths. Well, one of the answers to this question is what we're doing here tonight. We're in a dialogue. We are all connected. We're not islands, and our well-being is shared and interdependent. And for Baha'i, we believe that the enduring world religions are the work of one God. As Baha'u'llah described us, we are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch, and the tree puts forth new fruit in each season. When Tokia and Arjun, Kevin Locke, a Lakota Sioux and a Baha'i, came to Australia for the Parliament of World Religions some years ago, he described it as a story of separate groups climbing up the sides of Spirit Mountain. Occasionally they might encounter other climbers. Sometimes, with suspicion born of ignorance, there may even have been conflict. But on reaching the summit of this journey, at least, we now all see each other clearly. And interestingly, our current situation is one that increasingly requires us to take cooperative action to deal with existential threats to all of us on the planet. I have some wonderful memories of Kevin Locke visiting Kilbreda. It's a Catholic girls' school across the bay where I taught before my retirement. Kevin played a traditional flute and told stories, and got the girls to try sacred hoop dancing, a traditional form of worship for the Lakota Sioux. And that was an event that was full of joy. The school had a wonderful connection with an Indigenous community. Senior students would visit the community, and youngsters from that community would have a holiday at the school in Melbourne, staying with some of the parents. I loved working alongside those wonderful Christians, raising and empowering youth. A large number of my friends on Facebook are the staff from that school that I was fortunate enough to work alongside with. As they got to know me as a Baha'i, I was invited to give talks to the senior students and to have a homeroom, which was a great trust. And that meant teaching religious education classes to the year 8s and having lively discussions with the senior students. I was also asked to share a platform with people from other faiths for interfaith events. And through that meant the esteemed Shireen Hassan, and gained a deeper insight into some of the prejudices that the Muslim community encountered in recent decades. I have 2 brief quotes from religious texts. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And from the Quran, La ilaha illa Allah. It is in a sense the same message in different languages. From the Baha'i writings, I have a short quote. It's the only one I think I've got here. Consort with all men, O people of Baha, in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. If ye be aware of a certain truth, if you possess a jewel of which others are deprived, share it with them in a language of utmost kindness and goodwill. If it be accepted, if it fulfill its purpose, your object is attained. If anyone should refuse it, leave him unto himself and beseech God to guide him. Beware lest ye deal unkindly with him. A kindly tongue is the lodestone of the hearts of men. It is the bread of the spirit. It clotheth the words with meaning. It is the fountain of the light of wisdom and understanding. Baha'u'llah. COVID seems to me to be a wake-up. Those that listened to and implemented the best scientific and medical knowledge have minimised the death tolls, and global cooperation has saved millions. So the moral teachings of religion are now embedded in the wider secular democratic states. But there is still a long way to go, still a vast inequity in many places. Maybe, just maybe, the pandemic encouraged some greater global cooperation, because the virus doesn't care about nationality or ethnicity or ideology or which religion we belong to. But religion should care about a united humanity. And that, I believe, should be our common goal. I'm going to close with a quote from the Quran. And argue not with the people of the book, unless it be in a way that is better. Save with such of them who do wrong, and say, we believe in that which hath been revealed unto us and revealed unto you. Our God and your God is one, and to him we surrender. Surah 29, verse 46. It's nice to have a friendly discussion about our faiths. When 2 people argue about religion, both are wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Without any further ado, we move to Margot.
Yep. Okay.
Your time starts now.
I believe we share a common belief in absolute truth. We also know that evil exists and some things are seriously wrong, and I believe that you whom I address, as do we, shun evil and seek truth. And we live in a world that is increasingly polarized between belief and disbelief, and between good and evil. I believe each of our faiths teach the existence of a God or supreme being, and he is the ultimate lawgiver, and these laws determine whether certain behaviour is absolutely right and true, and certain other behaviour is absolutely wrong and untrue. However, what is becoming the trend, especially among the younger generation, is the belief that the difference between right and wrong is relative. Quoting one of the apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the philosophy of moral relativism, which holds that each person is free to choose for himself what is right and wrong, is becoming the unofficial creed for many in America and other Western nations. And so something that we all share is a duty to stand up and affirm that God exists and there are absolute truths. End of quote. Living in such a society requires tolerance from all of us. And so again, I would like to quote again one of our apostles. What is tolerance? When does it apply and when does it not apply? This is a harder question for those who affirm the existence of God and absolute truth than for those who believe in moral relativism. The weaker ones' belief in God and the fewer one's moral absolutes, the fewer the occasions when the ideas or practices of others will confront one with the challenge to be tolerant. Persons who don't believe in God or in absolute truth in moral matters can see themselves as the most tolerant of persons. For them, almost anything goes. You do your thing and I'll do my thing is the popular description. This belief system can tolerate almost any behaviour and almost any persons. Unfortunately, some who believe in moral relativism seem to have difficulty tolerating those who insist that there is a God who should be respected and certain moral absolutes that should be observed. End of quote. What does tolerance mean to us and other believers? Again, quoting one of the apostles of the Lord, all persons are brothers and sisters under God, taught within their various religions to love and do good to one another. One of our past prophets expressed this idea. Each of us from various religious denominations believes in the fatherhood of God, although we may differ in our interpretations of him. Each of us is part of a great family, the human family, sons and daughters of God, and therefore brothers and sisters. We must work harder to build mutual respect, an attitude of forbearance, with tolerance one for another, regardless of the doctrines and philosophies which we may espouse. End of quote. A Muslim scholar, Dr. Alwi Shihab, an Indonesian who was asked to be a guest speaker at Brigham Young University, elaborated that idea in these words: to tolerate something is to learn to live with it, even when you think it is wrong and downright evil. We must go, I believe, beyond tolerance if we are to achieve harmony in our world. Relying on the teachings of the Quran, Dr. Shihab continued, we must respect this God-given dignity in every human being, even in our enemies. For the goal of all human relations, whether they are religious, social, political, or economic, ought to be cooperation and mutual respect. End of quote. Living together with mutual respect for one another's differences is a challenge in today's world. We must seek tolerance from those who hate us for not being like them. As part of this, we will sometimes need to challenge laws that would impair our freedom to practice our faith. We must also practice tolerance and respect towards others. As the Apostle Paul taught, Christians should follow after the things which make for peace, and as much as possible, live peacefully with all men. Consequently, we should be alert to honour the good we should see in all people and in many opinions and practices that differ from our own. Our tolerance and respect for others and their beliefs does not cause us to abandon our commitment to the truths we understand and committed to follow. There is no middle ground. We must stand up for truth, even while we practice tolerance and respect for beliefs and ideas different from our own and for the people who hold them. While we must practice tolerance and respect for others and their beliefs, including their legal freedoms to explain and advocate their positions, we are not required to respect and tolerate wrong behaviour. Our duty to truth requires us to seek relief from some behaviour that is wrong. For example, we must oppose murder, violence, and thievery. As defenders of the faith, believers can and must seek laws that will preserve religious freedom. Along with the ascendancy of moral relativism, we are experiencing a disturbing reduction in overall public esteem for religion. This is a vital matter in which we, who believe in a supreme being who has established absolute right and wrong in human behaviour, must unite to insist on our time-honoured legal rights to exercise our religion. When believers seek to promote their positions in the public square, their methods and their advocacy should always be tolerant of the opinions and positions of others who do not share their beliefs. We should not add to the extremism that divides our society. As believers, we must always speak with love and show patience, understanding, and compassion toward our adversaries. Christian believers are under command to love their neighbours, to forgive and to do good to those who despitefully use them. They should always remember the Saviour's teaching that we bless them that curse us, do good to them that hate us, and pray for them which despitefully use us and persecute us. Believers should not be deterred by the familiar charge that they are trying to legislate morality. Many areas of the law are based on Judeo-Christian morality and have been for centuries. Our civilization is based on morality and cannot exist without it. John Adams said this of the American Constitution: "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to be the government of any other." Finally, the spirit of our balance of truth and tolerance is applied in these words by former prophets of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Let us reach out to those in our community who are not of our faith. Let us be good neighbours, kind and generous and gracious. Let us be involved in good community causes. There may be situations, there will be situations where, with serious moral issues involved, we cannot bend on matters of principle. But in such instances, we can politely disagree without being disagreeable. We can acknowledge the sincerity of those whose positions we cannot accept. We can speak of principles rather than personalities. For the most part, our neighbours not of our faith are good, honourable people, every bit as good and honourable as we strive to be. They care about their families just like we do. They want to make the world a better place just like we do. They are kind and loving and generous and faithful just like we seek to be. Nearly 25 years ago, the prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints declared, "Our message is one of special love and concern for the eternal welfare of all men and women, regardless of religious belief, race or nationality, knowing that we are truly brothers and sisters because we are sons and daughters of the same eternal Father." End of quote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margot. We now move to Piacello
Thank you.
from the Buddhist Community.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for inviting me as one of the member panel tonight. I'm from the Buddhist faith, and my tradition is the Thai tradition, forest tradition of Lumpur. And so in terms of how my faith relates to other religions, first of all, I just say how we practice in terms of our tradition, because just like many other religions, there are different traditions, and the tradition within the same Buddhist faith may influenced by the society or the country or the culture where the practice of that tradition is all about. So from our perspective of the forest tradition, our main focus is actually the inward. So we look into ourselves, and our main practice is basically meditation. And through the meditation, we start to understand how the surrounding environment is interact with us, and what can we do to bring this environment and society into the harmony. So in terms of Buddhism, we have the relationship with the Buddha is not like God and worshipper, but Buddha for us is our teacher, and we are his student. So what we do is just like similar to other religions that you are here. We do have a person who is the founder, which is our teacher, Buddha. And then we do have the Dharma, which is just like the doctrine or the Bible or Quran that you reading. And then we do have the Holy Companion, which is other fellow of monks and nuns who observe the precept in the higher number of precepts. For example, in the Buddhist monk, we got 227 precepts, and for the nun, they got 310. And and then other people who doesn't have to be monk or nun, but they still follow the faith of Buddhist. And what they do is they practice just the same way. And their core fundamental is the 8 precepts. And all of the precepts, I'm talking the number of precepts that we practice is going down to the no killing, no lying, no killing, no lying, no intoxicant, and no sexual misconduct. And the fundamental also share with other faith as well. So if you look at this, in my faith, how my faith relates to other faith is very similar. We all share the good values. So we are here trying to be a good person. But that is not enough. We have to live in a harmonious society. So what we or our teacher taught us to do is we have to give other religious a fair goal. That means we are not trying to be superior than other religions. We do show respect to other religions, and luckily that we live in a country like in Australia, we do have the right to believe or the right not to believe. So like Interfaith tonight, we all come from different faiths, and my faith and your faith, we may practice differently. Our belief may be differently, but the core fundamental, we share the same value. We want to be here to look after one another. We want to be here to make sure that we live in harmony, we function in harmony in society. So, for example, in my contribution to society here is like I'm a chaplain at the Geelong Hospital, Deakin University, and the prison, and we work together with many multi-faiths. So that means there's people from Catholic background, Muslim, but we go there with the one aim is how to provide the service chaplaincy towards the client that we're dealing with, whether it's student or whether a patient, whether a prisoner. We not go there try to impose our religions or our value and make those clients have to follow our religion. We just go there to share the good value, and the good value very simple. Like I said, like we all share the same value. So in a way, even though we are different faith, we dress differently, we chant differently, we do different practice. Like our practice mainly, if we spend a lot of our time is for meditation, and we do chanting. But our chanting is not pray to the Buddha and ask the Buddha to help us, because the Buddha actually showed the way. This is the way how you should practice, and you yourself actually have to practice yourself. You're not here to wait until you die and then the Buddha come and save you. So you have to practice yourself. So every day we be mindfulness. We try to be a good person. And so in terms of our faith and, another faith is we have to work together, like in interfaith and multi-faith, the same, we try to be a dialogue, and we try to make sure that let's say in university or school, the student know the value of different faith, and they also accepting that, in our society, which is multicultural, multi-faith, there's a different religion, so that the student know each of religion and each the value of the religion, and the student also know how to react or respond to different religion and know that they're good value. So what we do here monthly with the interfaith networks in Geelong and also around Australia is a very good thing. So that means we got a chance to learn from each other. And this is the time when I listened to the two speakers before and a few speakers later to know, what do they study, what do they learn, and how they practice. And so the interfaith, of course, is very good, the platform for all of us here to get a chance to learn. And so, in terms of my faith and your faith, there's not much of difference. The difference is only just the way we practice. So yeah, I hope tonight I can share this with my thought about how my faith relate to other religion faiths, and I hope later on you can ask me more questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to Sheikh Saad Qazi from the Geelong Mosque. You need to unmute yourself, and we'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa usalli wa usallim ala al-mab'uthi rahmatan lil Alameen. Nabina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. So today, inshallah, what I want to talk about is, and as the topic that has been presented, is how my faith relates to the other faiths. And one of the religions that come under fire immediately the moment we hear about religious tolerance or not being tolerant towards other faiths is unfortunately the faith of the Muslims or the Islamic faith. So that's why I just want to highlight a few things from the Quran and from the Hadith. Hadith is basically the statements of the Prophet ﷺ that holds a high value, or that holds the second most important value after the Quran within our faith. So the Quran, to start off, the Quran says, وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنْزَغُ بَيْنَهُمْ إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوًّا مُبِينًا. وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي. So say to my servants, وَقُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولُ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, that they should utter that statement which is good. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنْزَغُ بَيْنَهُم, because indeed shaitan, which is Satan or the devil, what he does, he tries to cause dispute, tries to cause differences among the people. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَنْزَغُ بَيْنَهُم إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوًّا مُبِينًا. So understand that shaitan, the devil, he is a clear enemy for the people. This ayah, if you look at the context, so ayah is the verse of the Quran. If you look at the context it was revealed in, it was actually revealed in the context that there was one companion by the name of Umar ibn al-Khattab. So one of the close companions of the Prophet ﷺ, his name was Umar. So he had an altercation, a bit of an argument with one of the non-Muslims that were living at that time. And some words were exchanged, and the words that were exchanged, they weren't very nice. So in relation to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah and told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Prophet Muhammad, that when I say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is just saying that peace be upon him. So please don't get confused. Allah, the God, he revealed to the Prophet that tell my servants, referring to this person, that when he speaks, and when he's speaking to the other people of other faiths, then he should speak with the best manner and in the best way. And that's why in reality, if you look at it, the Quran in multiple places, if a person does a deep you can say a research, or he tries to understand the Quran deeply, he will understand, come to the conclusion that the Quran balances out what sort of relationships we're supposed to have between people that are not of our faith and between the people that are within our faith. All right, because some people, if they look at a cursory glance, you would just look over the Quran briefly and you will come across certain ayat, all right, so certain verses that suggest that there shouldn't be any connection, any relationship between the believers and those who are disbelievers. I'll quote one or two for you just so we can understand what's the context of why they were revealed, and then I'll quote to you what sort of balance the Quran actually brings. So the Quran, it says in one place, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu la tattakhidhu alladhina ittakhadhu dinakum huzwa wa la'iban min alladhina utul kitaba min qablikum wal kuffara awliya. That, oh, you who believe, do not take those people who are who make fun of your religion as your close friends. All right. So this is one of the things that is mentioned, that do not take those people who make fun of the religion, huzuwan wa la'iba, and they treat it like it's a play, or like it's something of enjoyment, and they don't take it seriously. So don't make those people as your close friends. Now some people, they will look at this verse and they say the Quran's telling us that don't take or don't have any friendship between the Muslims and the non-Muslims. But this is actually taken out of context. This was revealed specifically for those people who actually mock the religion, who actually want to hurt the religion and think of it as something that should not be treated, as Margaret, she mentioned as well, that some things are absolute truths. And as Muslims, we also have certain things that are considered as absolute truths. So if you mock them, it hurts us. If you mock those truths and think those are the people that are told, that we don't take them as our heartfelt friends. But remember, even some people, they make up this, or they come up with this argument that in the Prophet, our Prophet, he has told us not to take the dog as a pet. All right. So does this mean that we mistreat the dog? All right. This is where the confusion comes. So it's not that just because they're told that they're not to be taken as friends, it does not mean that we start mistreating them, treating them badly, or start cursing them and insulting them. No, we still have to take care of the human being. We still have to take care of even the animals. So much so that in one narration it comes that one lady, she was involved in prostitution and whatever throughout her life, and this is considered a sin in the religion. But she was forgiven only because she gave water to a dog. So there was one dog that was there. It comes in the narration that she was forgiven. She was told that she can go into paradise because she gave that water to a dog. So now you would see that it does not mean that it do not befriend them in the sense that we mistreat them or think. It's just that we don't take them as close friends. But now where is the balance? So where does the balance come? In another ayah of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لا ينهاكم الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not prevent you عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين. with regards to those people who do not fight you about your religion, all right? So they don't say anything, they're nice towards you, they're very kind towards you, all right? لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم. They do not take you out of their lands. ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم وظاهروا على إخراجكم أن تولوهم. No. ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم. That you are good to them. The Quran explicitly says that there's nothing wrong. It's actually something that is recommended, that those people who are nice to you and we're living in a society that accepts multiculturalism, that accepts multi-faiths, all these different faiths, it accepts it. So the Quran tells us if you're living in a place like this, then it's good for you that you are respectful and you take care of the rights of others. Inna Allah yuhibbul muqsitin. At the end of this ayat comes that Allah loves those who are just. Allah loves those who are just. And so this is some misconceptions that come about is because people do not read or do not try to understand deeply what the religion says. And again, this is a very, very important, and I think one of the reasons why we have this interfaith dialogue is to try to understand the different religions and try to understand that the things that they're trying to say, how they relate to each other, and also try to have an understanding of the religion that you have a bit of a criticism against, that what that religion actually is saying. This is one of the purposes why we have this conference as well, and this is how it relates to how our religion also relates to the general thing that it has a lot of tolerance when it comes to different religions. So this is just a few things from an Islamic perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very good. We're going well, and our next speaker is Randall.
Yeah, just one thing, just before we move on, I probably will have to leave in about 15 minutes because I've got the prayer coming up, and so I'll just apologize for that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for making the time to be with us. We really appreciate that. Thank you. Randall, your turn.
Okay. Thank you for that. Really good speakers so far. A lot of good input. Within my own faith, so within what I have, let's see. Most people know me with the Universal Peace Federation. That is the interfaith level of my group. Excuse me, Tim, could you mute yourself? Sorry about that.
Yes, sure.
But the faith side of things is the Family Federation for World Peace. Now, you'll notice from both of those, the word church does not appear. We did not try to be a denomination ourselves. So we are so as far as what we're trying to do is we're trying to help with the unification in all aspects. So the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, the basic thing that we to help with getting different interfaith activities going is that we're trying to basically go back to what God wanted from the beginning. What was God really looking for? What was our point of origin that we were meant to be? And the institute that God established was a family. He had the two individuals, a husband and a wife, or a father and a mother of humankind that started off. And within our principles, we understand that the family is the school of love. That is where an individual, when they first born, learns about how to relate to other people, to men, mankind and womankind, with their representative of the father or their brothers, and of womankind from the mother or their sisters. And the whole environment there is learning that they are loved and how to relate to other people. When religions are set up, the whole focus is understanding these different guiding principles that within the UPF. So we are one world family. We are trying to, our understanding is we are trying to relate to people as brethren, relate to people as aunties, uncles, cousins, this type of feeling, even though we are very different in our own ways, that the highest human qualities are spiritual and moral in values. That when we talk about good characteristics or virtues of people, we're talking about the spiritual or moral side of things. The family is the school of love, and that is basic within the different cultures that have grown up, that the family is like the cornerstone of the community. The way to help reach out to inspire people and overcome problems is through living for the sake of others. This kind of mentality that I'm there to, okay, yes, I have to take care of myself, but also I'm there to take care of other people. And that when we're looking for peace, then peace comes from the cooperations going beyond the boundaries of nationality, ethnicity, and religion. So actually, this is outside the headquarters of our main church, if you want to call it that, in Korea. And that is Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, and the Quran, to kind of show how the different unity of religions is there. And what headquarter, church puts the founders of different faith groups in front of their church to, be respected. Within, we started in Korea, and when a Buddhist newspaper came up to the international president at the time, they said, so what is your understanding of the relationship between your church or Christianity and Buddha? And the leader at the time said, well, Buddha came about 500 years before Jesus. In all reality, Buddha is like the older brother to Jesus. He was the one that it was so much easier for Jesus to come at the time when he did, because there was a spiritual understanding, thanks to Buddha in the Far East. Zoroaster came in parts of Persia, Socrates in Greece, and actually the founding of all the different faith groups is actually from the Far East to the Middle East. If you actually look at the way that the things have developed, you may say, oh, but the Latter-day Saints was from America. No, they were from Jesus, that was in the Middle East. And so when you really look at it, there's this aspect of intuition or intuitiveness in the Far East and the Middle East that set the groundwork for the rest of the brethren around the nation, around the world. So there's some parts of the world which are more technical, logical. There's some sides that are more emotional, expressing their the joy. But within the Asians, then we kind of anticipate these are intuitive people. With the Middle East as well, these are the ones that are the Abrahamic faiths are there. So our founder was actually from a Confucius family, and most of his relatives were from a Confucius background. But his family converted to Presbyterian. So he had a very deep understanding of not just Oriental philosophy, but also Christian principles. And so a lot of our understanding within the Family Federation for World Peace is really helping to understand that meeting point between East and West. There's more that we can go on with that within our Bible study that we have called the Divine Principle. Then there's a lot of understanding that comes from both East and West understandings there. So often there's, at one stage, Tim asked me, well, Farhang asked me, you're Christian, aren't you? And this was coming from a non-Christian. So I didn't just want to say yes straight away, especially since the morning devotion that day was given by a Hindu within our church. And there's kind of, we've got people that feel that they are still Buddhist. still, from the different backgrounds, because we're a meeting place, we're a federation, or we're an association, not a denomination trying to divide people or separate people away from their original church. Anyway, I think my time is up. Thank you very much. Is that time for me, Tim? You're muted.
I'm unmuted now. Michael, it's your turn now.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for the invitation to speak on this most important of topics. It will come as a surprise to many Jews and Christians to learn that the faith of the ancient Hebrews was polytheistic. Yahweh had a wife named Asherah, and the heavenly bodies worshipped by the people surrounding the Hebrews were recognized as gods. However, they were regarded by the Jews as rival gods to Yahweh. According to the covenant with Moses, the Jews were required to lend exclusive allegiance to Yahweh, in return for which Yahweh would offer them protection as his people and a land of their own. Competition from other gods or religions, it seems, has always been there. Indeed, the New Testament's invocation of Daniel's prophecy of the Son of Man coming on the clouds is interpreted by contemporary Catholic scholars as proclaiming the demise of these heavenly bodies as deities in the face of their exposure to humanity made divine in the man Jesus. In Jesus, according to Christian belief, humankind reaches perfection. A new creation is inaugurated. That perfection consists in expressing fully God's love. That is, what Jesus did in accepting death on the cross at the hands of human beings without withdrawing his love from them. If Christians thought then that they were entitled to regard their religion as the superior religion, indeed as the one true religion, this thought is dashed by Christianity's definition as the way of love, made possible by their faith in the loving Father. Initially, Christians existed only in very small communities who could have had no thought of becoming a dominant world religion. With the Emperor Constantine's making of Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, however, in the 4th century, with all that that implied for their relationships with other religions, a more competitive way of conceiving Christianity grew, one characterized more by trust in human power than in the love of God. So the Christianity that was passed down the centuries to us was of that kind, one that trusted more in human power, one that defined itself more in terms of the mandate it claimed from God to convert all to its membership than in terms of the love it was supposed to announce and share with all. Of course, there have been many religions with many different beliefs and practices, some of which were sublime, others of which were horrendous. Think of those that engaged in human sacrifice, ritual prostitution, etc. This diversity suggested the exclusive way of thinking that Christianity had supported this diversity supported the exclusivist way of thinking that Christianity had developed. In more recent times, however, the Catholic Church, and no doubt, and many other Christian churches as well, there has been a growing realization that the idea of an all-loving God revealing himself exclusively to one religion makes little sense theologically or historically. A World Council of Bishops in Rome, the highest level of authority in the church from 1962 to 5, recognised the genuine religious values wherever they are found, because the God of the universe and human history, who desires to share his love with all, cannot be limited in that task to a single faith group. For Catholics today, our mission in relation to other faiths is one of dialogue, in which we listen attentively to each other to learn what God's gift has been to each, and to offer in our turn our story of God's gift to us. It is no longer to convert people from their faiths or non-faiths to ours, but to seek the truth in each of our positions, always in a spirit of love.
Thank you, Michael. Right on 7 minutes. Excellent. Much appreciated. We now move to Bhakta. Dasa.
Thank you, Tim. So, on behalf of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or the Hare Krishna movement, which is a branch of Vaishnava Hinduism dating back thousands of years, we view all faith communities and philosophies advocating and practicing love for God and founded on the revealed scriptures as representative of the ultimate religious expression. We also respect the spiritual worth of paths of genuine self-realization and the search for absolute truth, in which the concept of a personal deity is not explicit. Other communities and organizations advocating humanitarianism, ethical and moral standards are also valued as being beneficial to society. My faith views dialogue between its members and people of other faiths as an opportunity to listen to others and to understand what others believe and value, to develop mutual understanding and mutual trust, to share our commitment and faith with others while respecting their commitment to their own faith. Hare Krishna members are encouraged to be respectful and supportive of people of faith from other traditions, and to see the need of people of different faiths to work together for the benefit of society as a whole and for the glorification of God. Now, our spiritual master, our teacher, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, first registered in his society as a legal entity in New York in 1966, and he stated that his primary aim for the movement was to systematically propagate the spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. So in pursuance of this aim, members of our society value charity, non-violence, spiritual education, moral thought and action, devotion and service to God, further value qualities such as humility, tolerance, compassion, cleanliness, self-control, simplicity, steadiness, knowledge, honesty, and personal integrity. We value and respect the right to life of all living entities, be they human, animal, aquatic, or plant life. We value the environment and our natural resources as being God's property, which we have a responsibility to respect and protect. We recognize the institution of a family, as Randall was mentioning, to be an essential element in maintaining social stability. We consider respect of parents, teachers, government representatives important for the maintenance of a stable society. Respect and protection of elders, women, children, the weak, the dependent living beings, persons dedicated to the welfare of others and to the service of God are also important elements in the development of a healthy and secure society. We understand that many spiritual and altruistic and humanely inspired people share these principles and values, and we respect and value any tradition or culture trying to practice, maintain, and develop such qualities and behavior. So my faith tradition, Vaishnava Hinduism, recognizes religious diversity as a normal, healthy symptom of social expression. Relationships of trust can be developed from sincere dialogue amongst people of faith. These relationships inspire religious people of all traditions to work together to establish theistic conclusions that will lead to a God-conscious ethos in our modern world. Actually, in 1950, Srila Prabhupada confirmed this approach in an appeal to the leaders of the world religions. Quote, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, and members of other sects that have convincing faith in the authority of God must not sit idly now and silent, watch the rapid growth of a godless civilization. There is the supreme will of God, and no nation or society can live in peace and prosperity without acceptance of this vital truth. While cherishing our own spiritual culture and working to proclaim our faith in Lord Krishna, we consider it inappropriate and unbecoming of a Vaishnava Hindu to try and attract people to worship the Supreme by denigrating, misrepresenting, or humiliating members of other faith communities. Vaishnava Hindus strive to inspire and enhance relationships between the Lord and his devotees. In this attempt, devotees meet others whose approach to the Supreme is different in their flavor of worship, variegatedness in service, and expression of love. During a public lecture again in 1969, our founder, Srila Prabhupada, stated, everyone should follow the particular traditions and regulative principles of their own religion. This is required as much as there are many different political parties, although everyone is meant to serve one country. Thus, diversity is accepted, but not the exclusion of unity. Religion does not have to become a homogeneous merge of togetherness, but they can develop respectful and practical relationships with one another. With this understanding, my faith does not have a mission to proselytize members of other faiths. My faith does see its mission to accept with open arms any sincere soul who declares a need for spiritual shelter and guidance. There is a definite missionary spirit in Vaishnava Hinduism, but its practice is not governed by exclusivism or conversion model. From a Vaishnava perspective, we work not at conversion, but at spiritual development. Before conversion is an individual experience, a person's spiritual journey, a journey that transcends religious institutions and sectarian affiliation. Conversions models that depend on exclusive demands of affiliation may often do so without considering the Lord's supremacy, independent in truth. Through dialogue, people of different faith and traditions can work together to share principles and areas of concern. Together, they can engage their individual spirituality in addressing such problems as war, violence, moral decline, crime, intoxication, poverty and hunger, social instabilities, and environmental degradation. Through dialogue, theistic people and those engaged in the pursuit of the absolute truth can encourage one another to be more true to their own practice. Many traditions prescribe the disciplines of self-control, sacrifice, austerity, charity for developing spiritual enlightenment. But we all need encouragement and inspiration in our endeavors. To fulfill the request of our spiritual teachers to provide a good example to society, we need to encourage one another to be faithful to the principles of our own traditions. Dialogue offers a challenge to faith devotees of every tradition. This challenge is necessary and welcome part of spiritual life in a multi-faith world. Such dialogue can help strengthen the faith and character of individuals, integrity and visions of institutions, and support and appreciate those who expect enlightened spiritual leadership. My faith recognizes the spiritual or religious life essentially pertains to personal individual relationships between the individual soul and the eternal supreme soul, God. Though a devotee performs various services that may please the Lord, the Supreme Lord grants spiritual realization and pure devotion by his own sweet will. Thus, adherents of my faith tradition reject the idea that any one religion or organization can hold a monopoly on the truth of the relationship that is governed solely by the Lord. My faith accepts that God is free to enter into any loving exchange with whomever he wishes, without considering color, caste, or creed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Baha. I congratulate all the speakers for being very disciplined with their 7 minutes, and it's been very interesting to hear what you've all said. Now we've got a time for anyone, particularly of the speakers, to ask questions or make comments about what others have said. And also those of you who've tuned in can also ask a question or make a comment as well. I just wondered whether any of the, to kick this off, I wondered if any speaker was really surprised at something that one of the other speakers said. Did you hear something that really surprised you? That's my opening question, and somebody might like to make a comment about that. You'll have to unmute yourself, I think, to speak. I can't do that. But you can wave your hand. Who'd like to say something?
Randall is there too.
Sorry, I can't. Randall, right.
Randall's got his hand up.
Okay.
Yep.
I was surprised by something that Michael said. There was that the Hebrews followed multiple gods. I did know that before that Abraham's family were idol makers, and that he was called to cross the river away from them, and so that was kind of like a moving away from that to a monotheistic level. But I wasn't sure at what age, at what period that polytheistic understanding was. So did you have any era or time period that was?
Well, from the earliest of times, I mean, the archaeological evidence testifies to the polytheism, but also the names for the sun, the moon, and the stars in the scriptures themselves are the names of the deities of peoples who surrounded the Jewish people at various periods within their history. So the entire I mean, throughout most of their history, in other words, they lived in a polytheistic world. And the Jews, though called by their own tradition, their own God, to monotheism, nonetheless had a long struggle extricating themselves from the claims of other religions too. And the episode that you're referring to about the fashioning of an idol and so on is one example of an event in that struggle.
Yeah, I am aware that they had different names for the one God. Things like Jehovah or something like this. God is my provider. God is my protection. And I think Mark would also be able to say that with the Abrahamic faith of Islam. Allah also has many titles to be able to understand the many aspects that he gives. But yeah, in the time of Solomon, then he married many wives and brought many gods into Israel. And that was a bit of a problem at that time.
Judaism, it wasn't just a matter of different names referring to different aspects of God. When one of the names that we translate as Lord, Elohim, is in fact plural. In other words, gods, lords. Okay, so that in itself is one of the clues within the text of the Hebrew scriptures to the polytheism of Judaism as for a formidable part of its tradition.
Okay. Tim asked for what I was surprised about. That was something I was surprised about. Okay, thank you.
Right. Anybody else like to make ask a question or comment?
Murray has his hand up.
Right. Yes.
Thanks, Randall. Look, I just wanted to make a comment on what Wicks said as well about ancient Judaism. And one particular comment where you mentioned that God or our Father in heaven has a wife. One of the lesser known doctrines of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is that we have a mother in heaven as well as a father in heaven. And it's not spoken about a lot in our doctrine, but it's a significant part of our doctrine nonetheless. And I just thought you might like to know that. But thanks for your
thank you.
Thanks for your information there, Michael. It was very interesting.
Good. Right. Doctor.
As were all the talks.
Could I respond, Tim, by saying that when I said that for the ancient Jews that Yahweh had a wife, I meant that according to the archaeological evidence and some of the textual evidence in the scriptures, the Jewish people had a long struggle extricating themselves from the polytheistic traditions that was part of the world in which they grew up. I didn't mean to say that either Judaism or Christianity, which came later, are in fact polytheistic. No Jew would admit to being polytheistic, and no Jew, I'm sure, nor would any Christian believe in any mainstream Christian believe that God has a wife in eternity.
Okay, Doctor, you have a question? Yep.
It's just a comment on what Murray was saying, and again, it's in that whole aspect of similarities between the different faith traditions within the Hindu tradition, especially the Vaishnava Hindu tradition as well. We see it's monotheistic, but in the same token, there is a male and female aspect of God. And that's why the mantra that we chant, this Hare Krishna mantra, Hare is the female aspect of God, and Krishna is the male aspect of God. So it's both the joining of the two. So there's both the female and male aspect of God within that one personality.
Thank you. Right. Any other questions at this stage? I'd like to ask, the Imam mentioned about mocking a religion or making fun of it. I'd like people to give our comments. How does that relate to the question of free speech in a society like Australia? As a Christian myself, I know that sometimes people mock my religion, but for me, that doesn't actually. I don't worry about that. But I gather that other religions would worry that when people mock them, that is a bad thing. It doesn't worry me, but that's my comment. But I'd like to hear what others have to say about this question of free speech and mocking or making fun of religions. Anybody like to respond?
Can I respond to that one as well, if you don't mind, Tim?
Yeah, sure.
As far as mocking is concerned, back in the 70s, you're all familiar with the Hare Krishna movement, you know, with the chanting and dancing in the streets. And we were mocked for our spiritual belief by the broader public. That no longer is the case, but one incident that used to happen with me when I was a younger man in the 70s and 80s, when we'd go out and chant in the streets, there would be a guy that every Friday night he knew that we were coming out on chanting, and he would come out of the pub and deliberately pick on the big tall guy at the back and spit on me every single time we went out. Now, I could have got very angry about that, you know, but in a sense, that mockery made me stronger in my faith. So in a sense, that abuse was actually a strengthening of my faith in the tradition that I wanted to follow.
Yeah,
but that's just a comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Tim, could I also make a comment about that? It's very interesting.
Yeah,
point.
sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just a couple of years ago, there was a very, very popular musical on in Melbourne, and it's played in some of the other cities in Australia, called The Book of Mormon. It was a musical that was basically mocking our beliefs. And the church, we took an interesting stand on that, in that we basically piggybacked on the publicity from that musical. And we ran a concurrent advertising campaign at the time, and it actually helped bring quite a lot of people into our faith. So we believe that freedom of speech and freedom of religion is very important. And if people mock us, it can only make us stronger, as our previous commenter just spoke about. Not that I would recommend being spat upon to become stronger, but these things happen at times.
Yep. Okay. Do we have any other comments, questions?
Yes, but I think Piacello wanted to comment also.
Yep, thank you.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
want to talk about mocking, because from our religious faith, the Buddha taught us that when people give you either a nice compliment or nasty comment, and if you make up your mind that you are not going to take it, you should not react. And basically, the Buddha gave example: if someone give you a gift and you're not receiving it, so you're not taking it, so they have to take it back. So I always remember that teaching. So anytime when people mocking about my religions, I just not reacting and just smiling, and basically I'm not taking it, you know, rather than react and say, oh, this is hurts, and it, you know, and you have to react, and you know, it's create a more of conflicts. And then it also shows that you're not compassionate, because when people are mocking me, I just feel sorry that they don't really understanding. So they should have learned to understanding other religions and try to be compassionate, you know, give people have a goal type of attitude rather than, you know, slandering or mocking. Yeah. So this is our faith in terms of when people are mocking us, we not react to it. Yeah.
Yvette, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I did.
Yvette?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
You can, okay. The thing that came to my mind was a soft answer turneth away wrath, and that the way that we react or choose to act, I guess a reaction is actually is not an action. It's allowing that group or that person to sort of dictate almost the way that we're going to respond to something. But if we can choose our own action in that way. And I think that being gentle in the way that we respond to that is the way to do that, rather than because I believe that conflict is inevitable in life, people will have different opinions, but contention is a choice. So I think that's, you know, what others have said, that making a choice to not contend does not mean we agree. It's how we respond to that is the most important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Randall. Yeah.
Um,
Randall?
Yes.
Ah,
Okay. Yep. When you live in a society where your faith group is in a majority, it's easier to get by than with minority groups. And so a lot of the different groups that are represented here as well, Baha, Buddhist, Hare Krishna, Unification, Latter-day Saints, some of us are in a really big minority, and it's easy to feel pressure, feel the pressure from outside, and we can't speak or reveal ourselves as easily in just, you know, average groups. That's what makes Geelong Interfaith such a great thing, that people from minority groups especially feel that they do have a voice. And that was one of the things that, you know, even from decades ago, like the Hindu family that was here, they were saying, you know, at work, I couldn't express myself openly. But here in the Geelong Interfaith, I felt as though I've found a home. With the Hare Krishna, with my group as well, we experienced something called deprogramming, where families of new converts would actually hire people to kidnap and abduct and hold in a place, and then until they broke their faith. And that's similar actually to what Jesus went through in Mark 3, 2021. If you ever wanted to look that up, it's basically the family was saying they went to take charge of Jesus because they thought that he was beside himself. And when they went to where he was, the people said, "Oh, Jesus, your mother and brothers are outside." And he said, "Who are my brothers and mothers? You who are doing the will of God are my brothers and sisters." And so that was kind of like almost like a deprogramming threat against Jesus at that time. But Jesus' attitude in the Sermon on the Mount was, blessed are you when you are persecuted and because of righteousness or because of your faith, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So he was aware that people do attack, and yet it's the experience that faithful people have gone through. There's been martyrs throughout history, and there are things to endure at times. Thank you.
Yes, Michael. Yes.
I say that this is a political question rather than a religious one. A just society will promote tolerance and respect for all people and creeds. However, for Christians, Randall's just cited a few examples. For Christians, the call of Jesus is to not claim our rights, but to tolerate persecution, being spat upon, being mocked, to follow the example of our leader. Now, that is perhaps easier for a majority religion, as Randall points out, to say, than for a minority group that really cops a lot more. But for within the Christian tradition, I think that is our response. We Christians are far more conspicuous now for demanding our rights of governments and other members of society than we are for rendering humble service.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, Tim, that can be seen today if you look at the Age newspaper. there was a letter sent to the Attorney General in regards to the bill that's being passed or wanting to be passed about regulating and in a sense minimizing the authority of a religion, where all the different interfaith groups, all the different faith communities have signed off on this letter saying that this bill to weaken the power of religion or to interfere with religious services and dealings was not suitable. I don't know if any of you saw that today in the Age. So this is the power of interfaith, where we all come together and discuss these things that are socially unacceptable, you know. And there is still power within that religious bodies, you know, all the different religions come together. It's a very powerful body.
Can I say something, Tim? It's Shirley.
Yes, please.
I was just thinking.
Yes, Shirley. Yeah.
The things that unite us, there's more of those things than divide us, really. And I think the world has changed. Instead of us just living in our own little patch and just worrying about our own particular needs, when people see that we care about justice for refugees, violence against women, all those social issues that we're working, you just can't just stay home and say your prayers and not do anything about the things that are wrong in the society. And I think faiths, well, all the faiths that I know would be united in working for justice for those people. And I think that's how we've come to respect one another, because we are interested in justice for, you know, for people. And I think that's a surprise to different faiths to know that we cared not just about Catholic people who were, you know, in a tight spot, but we care about anybody who needs help. Like a 19-year-old boy in France, Frederick Ozanam, founded the St. Vincent de Paul Society, which is worldwide now, but he stood up in a cathedral and accused the church of ignoring the poverty that was there in Paris in particular. But a 19-year-old student, the effect that he had on the world, not many people even, they know St. Vincent de Paul Society, but not the history of it. But that organisation, you know, is, as other organisations similar in different other faiths, are concerned about anybody who has a need, not whether they've got a religion or anything. But to say it again, I think the things that unite us are far greater than what divide us. Thank you.
Good. Right. Anybody want to say something more? Well, I think I might just draw this session to a close.
Yvette's got a hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. But yeah, right, Yvette, yes, sorry, I didn't see that. Right, off you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that that there is a need for us to stand united with people of all faiths and to voice our opinion when people mock other, like when we're aware of somebody mocking somebody of another religion. As advocates for our own faith, we can advocate for others as well, and just in our own conversations and our own interactions, stand up for people when we hear others speaking ill of them. I think that that's one thing. And another thing is for us to be aware of the political, the impact of the decisions that we make in the political sense, and seek to understand the people in our own area that have power, political power, and talk to talk to the people that are in power politically about our own opinion. So writing letters and actually having conversations with them, so that we let them know of our opinion, just as citizens, as well as parts of our own religions. But I think that's an important thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Well, any other final comments? I'd like to just finish up our time together tonight. I just want to read something from a Christian speaker from some years ago, Max Warren. He said, our first task in approaching another people, another culture, another religion, is to take off our shoes, for the place we are approaching is holy. Else we may find ourselves treading on other people's dreams. More serious still, we may forget that God was there before our arrival. We have then to ask what is the authentic religious content in the experience of people of other faiths, whoever they may be. We may, if we have asked humbly and respectfully, still reach the conclusion that others may have started from a false premise and reached a faulty conclusion, but we must not arrive at our judgment from outside their religious situation. We have to try to sit where they sit, to enter sympathetically into the pains and griefs and joys of their history, and see how those pains and griefs and joys have determined the premises of their situation. We have to be present with them. This is not easy, but then it's something we have to work on. So thank you all for being with us tonight. I'd like to particularly thank Zoran from the Macedonian Orthodox community for being with us. And interesting that he was able to be with us tonight, as well as those of you from other members of the Geelong Interfaith Network and from elsewhere. I'm going to close now. Our tradition in the Geelong Interfaith Network is to always finish our meetings with a minute of complete silence as we meditate on what's happened and offer what's happened in our own way, in our own spirituality. So I'll just institute a minute of silence now, and then we will have one final comment before we close. Well, thank you all for being with us tonight, and please look at the Geelong Interfaith Network website, and you will find that a record of this gathering will be there in the next few days. And we like to keep in touch with you all through our website, and you'll find information there about how to keep in contact with us. Thank you all again, and we look forward to another dialogue at another time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
One last thing before you go. Could I ask that we have a smile or wave or something so that we can add that to the recording? So 5, 4, 3, 2. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Bye.
Bye.